Okay, let's get started here, folks. Uh, so it's time for another 2 p.m. PST Twitch stream. I'm your host, Strange Bro Jim, and today we're going to be getting back into the development of my game GGG. Didn't know that was there. um, so, um, last week we were working on the preliminaries for storing all of the information that we were going to be doing for the D-Star. Um, so this time we're probably going to be getting into the fairly nitty-gritty of the algorithm. Um, I needed to do a little bit of prep work prior so that I didn't cause myself any like additional problems or anything along those lines. So we're going to be tackling um, we're, we're probably going to be kind of tackling the majority of the development and in the code today for the pathfinding. So, um, let's see. Yeah, last week we were building up the storage for all of um, the potential nodes um, that we were going to be running into. I wanted to try to set up some initial points to kind of go to um, in order to um, take care of to kind of keep track of everything that was going to be stored in each of the nodes. To kind of trace to see, make sure that the path was actually being followed, according to what I want to have happened. Now, for any of you that might be wondering, um, especially if you're kind of coming into this a little bit late, um, the um, the reasoning behind the A star, not using the A star for Unity 3D, is kind of twofold. One, I'm going to have a lot of agents that are going to be walking around and changing the paths almost constantly. Now, um, from what I understand, Unity can handle this, but at the same time, um, I'm not sure um, how well it will hold up, especially for like a mobile app. Okay, so I'm trying to limit the amount of data that's flowing or that's being calculated at runtime. So, um, so that's one side of things. Um, the um, the other other side of the coin is the fact that I'm using tile-based map, um, specific positioning, and I am afraid that the A star might not work in that particular regard. I've had some trouble in the past um, with the hex tile grid, not really kind of working the way I kind of want it to. Um, so I've had to kind of make some adjustments to it, and I'm afraid those adjustments might not really work very well with the Unity 3D A star or its built-in pathfinding. So those are my reasonings behind it. If you disagree, I mean, feel free to kind of post like maybe some videos or some examples of people making it work, but um, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, this is the um, based off of what I've seen so far, which I mean, admittedly hasn't been much. Um, I did a couple of tutorials that Unity had uh, on its initial um, hub, for the 2D, and um, it didn't really have anything for um, the hexadecimal, so or the hexagonal map. So, um, or at least it didn't at the time. So, um, so we're gonna continue working on what we have. Uh, I got a lot of errors that I'm going to need to kind of work through, and it's understandable. Been really kind of working more on the code side, instead of um, clearing up my errors. So we'll go ahead and bring up my code here, and I will go ahead and start um, showing what I have right now. Okay, so um, one of my concerns was um, trying to make sure that there's a default, but setting up the testing parameters to um, move on to the next set of values. So it's going to be an interesting process here to tackle all that. So um, yeah, I think that's going to be about it. We got the code loading up right now. Switch over to Google real quick. Let's see. Gotta wait for um, Visual Studio Code to load up. So, let's see. All right, I should probably bring up the D-star algorithm here. That's not what I wanted. What the hell? Okay, that was weird. So we're basically going to be, um, looking through, going through this pseudocode here and basically doing, um, kind of replicating this in Unity uh, to try to get, all of the nodes being shown. So just need my code coming up. Is it loading or no? There it goes. Okay. Now we're gonna be wanting to look at the agent. Yes, thank you. Don't need that right at the moment. Um, let's see, we need game manager so that we can continue working on that a little bit more. And let me go ahead and load in the other tiles and the like so that I have those on hand. So if I need to add anything on those, I can. Okay, um, so what we had before, to kind of go back over what we kind of did last week. Um, so, um, we go into our loop for um, all of our construction worker AIs for the humans. So uh, we check to see whether or not they can move because they might be working on something. They might be gathering resources. They might be doing some construction. They might already be moving to another destination. So we check to see if they're going to move. I can obviously rename this a little bit later, but for now, it'll work. It'll work for now. Um, we check we do a debug log to make sure, um, we're seeing the fact that they can move. If they can move, then it goes through determining whether or not they're gonna uh, where they're gonna be moving to. That's the whole purpose of this part. Now, obviously, I'll have some additional code after this concerning like gathering resources and the like, but um, so um, you know, we're checking to see if um, if they're working already or scared. Personally, I don't know if I really need those again. I mean, if they can move, then they should be, either, or if they can't move, then they should already be working or they're already moving in some way. So this might be a little bit of a redundant if statement, to be honest. So I may want to get rid of that now that I think about it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to toggle that fact that they can move, um, or that you know they're they're going to be on they're going to be moving. So if the can move is true, then this should switch it over to false. So um, now uh, we initially say that is there a pass is false. Um, Now we probably going to need to kind of change this up a little bit because we might want to try to get the um, hvals value there. So, um, so if that's the case, then I should probably check on that real quick. Hmm. Okay, I could probably use that to get the information. So what I can do, um, so let's go ahead and do this. Um, if hval path to follow is equal to null, meaning there's nothing inside the value there, then what am I doing here? There we go. Is there a path equal to false, else is equal to true? Okay, so the reason that I'm doing this here is that if the human already has a path to follow, okay, um, means that they're going to want to continue walking on that particular path. So they don't necessarily need to um, find their next destination spot on that. Okay, the um, their pathing that they have has already been established. So um, they can continue walking along that particular path unless something happens for that particular character, then or for that particular agent, then obviously, the path will change after that. But um, so if their path is indeed null, then um, then we can say um, that there isn't that a path hasn't been established yet, and therefore it is false. So we're going to move on from there. Um, so if it's false, then we're going to check to see the debug on that and see if it's, what the defaults are on there. Um, if it keeps on getting reset to 0 each and every single time, then I'm going to have some trouble. Um, um, I'm going to have to set this destination value into the agent itself, which might not be a bad thing, to be honest. Um, we can always nullify it after, or we can always set the destination of it afterwards. So, now that I think about it, I probably should do that. Okay, so um, actually, hold on. We probably need it public. And destination. And then we set the values here. So this is the initial. So um, okay. So with that in mind, we probably don't really need this anymore. Um, okay, so okay, let me kind of talk this through a little bit here for anyone that's looking at this and going, what the heck is going on? Okay, so um, this is determining um, where the um, where are the humans going to be going to? Okay, um, and um, the let's see. Sorry, I was kind of thinking ahead a little bit here. I was trying to look at the code and going, maybe I should modify this a little bit more. Okay, sorry, getting back on track. Um, so we determined whether or not the human has a path to take. Here, if the human agent doesn't have a path, okay, then it's going to um, uh, then it's going to basically show me, what its current destination is, just to kind of make sure that we're kind of following along this information here. Um, so we have the agent being set initially to negative 999. Okay, this is not going to be a value that is going to be available to um, uh, this isn't going to be a value available um, to stay kind of thing. There's the tiles themselves are never going to be able to reach that particular number, so I'm not going to have too much to worry about there. Okay, so this basically says, hey, if the destination is set to a negative number, then we're going to kind of reset the value here to another value. Okay, um, which I should probably go ahead and rechange the um, set destination. We'll send destination into it so that we can actually hold on. We can actually put that after all this. Don't need to double up code there. So what I'm doing here is, I know that once um, we have the destination here set to 9,099, we're resetting it to that value, and then we're going to basically set the destination for that particular human agent again, um, based off of what value we're getting out of all this. Okay, now um, technically these two should be um, within here. Let's see. Yeah, we have determined destination here. So um, this right here is basically going to be based off of the player's um, well, this will determine um, if they're human, then then they're going to be trying to go after resources, or they're going to be going after the banner. If they're a monster, then obviously they're going to be chasing down any kind of human within sight, or trying to find a path towards the human city. So it's going to be taking them a little bit to try to figure out how to get there. Um, um, so um, I'm probably going to be needing to do a um, probably going to need to do like two like fog of war style maps, one for the humans and one for the monsters. You see, I don't want the monsters to know absolutely where the humans are located at. Okay. I want them to kind of struggle on their pathing as well. Okay. One of the things that kind of irritated me most about, some like real-time strategies games, for example, is that they knew exactly where you were at every single time. Okay. Um, they knew where you were placed at. There was no scouting whatsoever. And if you played the game for the very first time, then you had to scout, which put the enemy at an advantage on that, which always kind of irritated me about that kind of system. Um, so I want to try to do better, you know, for this game. Okay. Um, now this might give, um, now for the player, this might make it pretty lucky for them in the fact that, the monsters are kind of struggling to find the first human, or it can make it really difficult because the path straight to the human city might be, you know, a straightforward path. So, that path gets found almost instantaneously. Um, so, um, so they might have some amount of struggles along those lines. Um, now, the monst the monsters will try to break down any barriers, but there might be some other monsters that might kind of go and explore a little bit to try to find another path. Um, you know, for them, it might be faster for them to try to find a new path around versus trying to break down the barrier. I'm going to try to make it so that that barrier offers a decent amount of protection against, um, at least a single monster attack, Googles or goblins. Um, so those barriers are supposed to hold up for a little while. Um, how long? I don't know. Again, that's a balance factor, and I need to. That's something that I'm gonna have to kind of address when the time comes. Um, but this is basically meant to check the human or monster, see what they need to kind of go for, which means they're gonna have to ask the ghosts, ghouls, or goblins, or ghouls, ghosts, and goblins, um, how to you know where they want to kind of go, and ask the humans where they want to go, ask the hunters where they want to go, um, the warriors. So um, so we got some work to kind of do along those lines. So um, we still have to figure out that part of things, but that requires um, me to actually put in more of the resources, put in the blockers there, and I'm not ready for that just yet. I want to make sure that the um, my uh, my agents can traverse the map first before I start putting in objects that they can collide with, for the most part. Um, so, um, that's what this is all about, which technically should kind of go inside here. Mm, So, okay. So what am I doing here? So first off, we need to kind of put this inside here. That's the first step. That goes inside there. Because obviously, you know, if there's no path, we need to determine their destination. So that's like the first. Um, okay. Let's see. Uh, this should be fine here for the most part. So we go to testing path here. Um, and this basically goes through this portion of the code to see. Um, I modified this a little bit since last time. So um, we're using we're using destination here and next tile node there. Um, so so out vector two um, next tile node. Just add that in there. Okay, so Um, let's see. So is path established is something that we're going to be returning back from testing path. That's what's being collected here. Um, so if if we if we um, okay, I see what's going on here. Let me um, so if um, we got our destination on here, okay, or we're determined, you know, if there's a path, we don't need to worry about it, okay. If there is an established path already, if there is, we don't need this. If there isn't an established path, then we need to determine, what our next destination is, okay. So once we determine our destination, then we figure out, has there been a path already made for that particular destination? Okay. Um, the the node that we're standing on and the node that we're going to might already have a particular um, um, might have a particular established path. Okay. So that one of the previous agents already did. Okay. So um, if an agent has already done that, then we get the path from it. We get the um, um, we figure out you know which of the next tiles we need to kind of go to um, in the path there. Okay, if there hasn't been an established path, like okay, let me see. We had a um, we had a site that we tended to like to go to for the kind of showing the tiles. I was figured I'd go ahead and let's go back there real quick um, and try to show you what I mean in some fashion or others. Here, one second while I bring that up. Okay, so um, say we have our grid here. It's not exactly the same kind of grid, but it's it'll do for our purposes here. Okay, so um, let's go ahead and save this real quick. Now, okay, so I mean, I'm sorry, it's taking me a little bit long to try to discuss everything here, but I'm just trying to also kind of make sure that it's solid in my mind as well. So let's say our particular agent is here, okay, at this particular spot, okay. So first thing that we do is we check to see if there is a path, okay, if they have a path that they're currently on, okay, and we find out, that their path to follow is set to null, you know, and if it is, then we say, hey, there is no path. So we say, this is false. Okay, that's our initial run here. Path is false. Okay, so um, we check to see if we get the um, agent's current destination. Okay, which could be the 9,999 in this particular case. Okay. Um, Now, if there was a path, then we already have a destination. Um, so, um, so we don't necessarily need to worry about this too much. It's going to be, this might be reset over and over and over again. Um, so we might not necessarily need to worry about that too much. Um, I might actually, now that I think about it, probably consider moving this up into here a bit. Um, but we'll see. I'm getting off track again. So um, so this is false. We go here. We find this is false. Not false is true. So we go inside here. Um, we get the destination, which is established to be 9,999. Okay. So here we get a new destination for it. Say we have, let me put it like right there, for example. Okay, so we get a new destination. Okay, so we then change the agent's destination from this value here to these values there. Okay, um, for the testing purposes. Otherwise, everything here needs to be deleted. Okay, eventually we're just gonna leave it to this portion right here. Okay, but again, that's for later. Um, I'm leaving it in because there's nothing here rather than a moment to change our values, so we're fine. Um, Now, um, so we figured out where we wanted to go. Okay, now we determine what our next tile is going to be. Okay, so now we go to, damn, bugs are flying around me. Um, we're going to um, we're going to test our path. Okay, so that means that we're going to go to this particular section of code for our agent. So, um, you know, we don't know whether or not the path has been established or not, so we set it to false. Okay. We check to see if the path to follow is set to null. If it is, we go inside here, which, being our first initiation here, we know that the path to follow is false. So we go here, we send our destination in that we want to go to generate a hash key. Okay. Um, we then get that value from the hash key. Okay, um, which is currently under our hex tile here. We just have a various value to use our coordinate systems here to make sure that um, we don't have any kind of like mix-ups or anything along those lines. Okay, we have a prime number times the x value plus the y value, and we should always have a unique number each and every single time. Um, so at least maybe, I believe so. Um, so we then take that hash key and we go and check the tiles set of hashes to see if there's an actual path already established. So we go to our hex tile here. Um, we have our hash key. Okay. Um, we want to make a copy of it so um, we don't destroy the stored value of it. I could be doing this wrong here. Again, uh, we'll have to we'll have to make sure that the hex path here is not corrupting our list here. Okay, so we put in the hash key into our hex, we get the hex path out of it, and we return the hex path, back to our agent, which sets the path to follow. Okay, it you know we basically what's going on is um, if an agent was already here and it's trying to get there, which has already been established by a previous agent, okay, then the path, say like, that, for example, has already been established, okay? We don't need to worry about it, okay? So, um, so now that we kind of know about this, you know, um, that's what our path to follow is going to be all about, okay? So, um, so our path to follow is set. It's no longer null in this particular case. Now, um, so what we want to do is we want to get if we have our path established here, okay, um, if it's okay, if the path is still null, meaning that the path hasn't been established by another previous agent, okay, then it's going to skip this, okay, it'll skip this and it will go into this block of code which will establish through deep D-star pathing to get to our destination, okay? But if it has been established, okay, then what we want to do is we want to go to this point here, and once again, we're going to um, we're going to get the next tile out of our path here. So um, we can kind of leave this as is, but we want to remove destination out of that. Destination does not want to change. We're just moving to the next tile in our path. Um, out of all this. Um, so what we're doing is for our path to follow here, which is, a hex path. Okay. Um, we've established our path. It's been set. We have a copy of it. Okay. So now we go to get the get next path here. So what we're doing is that we're going to the hex path. Okay. And we're getting the next tile in our um, in our linked list here. Okay. So we're getting um, our next destination, our next tile in the path here. Okay. Um, we're removing that first node from that particular path. Again, this is going to be a copy, or at least it needs to be a copy. And then um, we return the tile key back um, into this value here, and we, set the x and y values to this. Um, hmm. To be honest, I probably could just kind of I could probably just go ahead and just do, get the next tile that way. Just establish the values there. I mean, I'm just using a vector 2 in this particular case. Hmm. I mean, I don't necessarily need this. Oh, but wait, I might though. I might. Hold on. Um, let's see. Yeah, if um, what I can do in this particular case is have an else, and what we want to do is we want to get next paths tile there. So hval um, next tile node. So um, if the now I remember what I was trying to do here. So um, if there's no path, if a path hasn't been established, then we go to our pathing and create one. Okay, and say, hey, there is a path. We don't need to worry about um, establishing one. Um, so if it was false, then um, then we can swap it in for true afterwards. Okay. Um, which I probably don't really need which I probably don't really need afterwards. This might be redundant. I probably don't really need it, um, to be honest. Okay, so we use our D star to find a path. We build the path, and we construct it inside, you know, that particular tile and that, for that particular path. Otherwise, we go to, the agent, you know, and we get the next tile out of it all, and um, establish the x and y value out of it. That's the reason why I had this kind of separate as a separate function, because um, you know testing the path here is great, but if our path has already been established, then we can just move on to the next tile in our path and be done with it. So once this has been taken care of, once we've gotten our next tile node that we want to go to, then we attempt to move. We tell the agent, hey, go to this one particular destination. And we've already kind of worked on this one once before, so this kind of works already. So um, obviously there's going to be, there needs to be more that I put into this particular function, collision and so on and so forth. But for now, it just meets our purposes. Um, so we're good on that. I don't think I really need this. Um, yeah, we're kind of reusing is there a path after this point here. Okay, so I think we are pretty much done for the most part on this. Our attempts to establish some preliminaries on this. So, sorry, I do want to get into the D star, but so um, for this, basically what it does is that it looks through the path, says, hey, here's the next tile that the D star has given to me. It returns those values to the game manager, from, the gets path's next tile, and then it moves to said tile. That's that's the intention on that. Now, if the attempted move fails on that, like if say um, for some reason um, there's some uh, woods or something along those lines, then obviously we're going to need to try to uh, set up that the pathing that they have right now is incorrect. But for now, we'll worry about that a little bit later. Okay. Um, we're going to attempt to move, and it fails. Then we're going to need to, um, send up a red flag saying, "Hey, the pathing that we have from this particular node isn't correct, we're going to have to reestablish a path, which means, um, so like if the attempted move gets hit with a failure and we still have a destination, then what we're probably going to need to do is we're probably going to need to null out the path to follow on that, which shouldn't be that difficult. Once we null it out, then this will determine, hey, we we need a new path to follow. So it's going to go back. Silly me, I forgot to keep the music going. Okay. Um, where was I? So once uh, you know, if we have a path, then we continue. Um, if we run into something, we null it out, and it tries to determine a new path from that particular, um, because our collision here is causing a problem. We can't get around. Um, we can't do what we want to do. We can't go to our particular location that we want to go to because there's something in the way. So we're gonna have to figure that out a little bit more. We're gonna have to figure out, you know, we're gonna have to, if we already have a path, if we're trying to follow a path and our attempted move fails, then we null out our path to follow, and our pathing gets to work again to try to find a new path for the agent to take. Okay, to try to find, um, you know, based off of the landscape that we've already looked around in, where to kind of go to. So, um, okay. So now that we've taken care of that, um, we're going to. We've pretty much done everything that we kind of need to do here in the game manager for our current working code. Now, um, this might need to be kind of one of the this entire process here might need to kind of go into its own function for the most part. Okay, because the warriors, the the monsters, they all might want to try to figure out how to get to these destinations based off of where they're located at. Okay, and I might just do that. Okay, I might just you know use these values here and have them kind of duplicate it for each of these guys. Okay, um, for the warriors, for the humans, um, for all the um, for all the monsters. So um, so we got some work to that we kind of need to do on that. Okay, so um, uh, But for now, we're just kind of focusing on the humans for the most part. So we just need the construction workers to be moving around the way they need to move around. So for now, I think I think this will be good. Let's go ahead and try to work on our code to try to get it working again. Remove all the errors from it, um, and see what we can fix. Okay, so obviously I have a little bit of a problem here. So okay, so interesting. It's only showing one error. And that's obviously wrong, but um, okay. So because I'm pretty certain that there's multiple errors. Okay. It's having a problem with this particular while loop. There we go. There we go. We have quite a few errors, 10 errors to contend with. So we're still dealing with the linked list namespaces. So looking at hex path here, and we're dealing with our inclusion of the linked lists. Um, not sure why we're having a difficult time with that. Um, let's see, sharp, um, using linked list library. Damn. Okay. Um, okay. They keep on using generic here. I was kind of hoping that I can avoid generic. Hoping that I can just use linked list here, but I haven't seen any examples of it going further down like that. Is there no way to access linked list that way? Seems kind of odd. Let's open up some links here and see what we can find here. Yeah, they're using generic as well. Hmm. Maybe I'm gonna need to kind of use me. Let me do a Google search for this and see what I can find. No, I don't mean that. Okay. Um, Okay, that doesn't even show the C sharp corner isn't even discussing the using or the access to the library. That's bad. You're ignoring the very first thing that anyone should do when including the library. I mean, granted, they talk about all of the information in it, but I mean, um, if you don't have this, at least this in your usage there, then you're basically going to be failing, using this within your code. So, the fact that they didn't actually show that in this particular page is an unfortunate oversight on their part. Oh well. Let's see. Hmm. I, what the hell is this? Linked list is already a class, guys. What the hell? Maybe this is, so old that C Sharp doesn't have a linked list class to begin with. So they're probably just kind of showing, hey, this is how you build a class. So, I mean, can't blame them along those lines. But obviously, there's a class in C Sharp now, so this is pretty much useless at this point. They're reinventing the wheel on this point. So, you know, um, I mean, obviously there's examples on how to use linked lists, and that's fine. But um, there's already pre-built library already. So use the library. Or at least, you would think, hey, you want to use the library. So, you know, whatever, whatever you. Um, okay. That doesn't really, didn't really show anything. Okay. Is there no way to access linked list as its own? That's not showing me anything I need. Um, hmm. Is linked list not a usable namespace? Hmm. Hmm. Once again, it's not showing me examples of it. Is it not a namespace? Am I just being stupid on this? I could be, to be honest. Um, I could be completely stupid on this right at the moment. Hmm. All of the examples are not showing linked list by itself. I'm trying to save on including the entire library of generic within this particular um, set of codes because I don't need the full generic set for this particular, small snippet of code. But why isn't this working? Maybe I'm messing up somewhere. And I'm messing up. Hmm. Let's see. Yeah, there's another reference to generic. And just simple that. It seems odd that I can't use this by itself like that. I can't isolate linked list from the library of generic. But, I don't know. I'm not finding what I need here to state whether or not it's even possible. Again, I don't know why it wouldn't be, but mm, that's not sure what the heck that was all about. Never mind. Um, this doesn't help me. Let's see. Let me leave this one alone. Um, yeah, is linked list a interest. Hmm. missed. Hmm. Okay, I don't know. It might not be possible, but I don't know why. I mean, if someone has an answer for me on this, then I'm all ears. I don't mind, people saying, hey Jim, you are being a little stupid here. You need to remember that this is how you do that, so on and so forth. I mean, uh, don't get me wrong. Okay, I'm not an expert when it comes to C sharp, so majority of um, my knowledge has been in C and Java, so I'm still trying to get a good firm grasp of C sharp again. Um, so if you know the answer to my question, my dilemma here, then feel free to speak up. I don't mind. I don't mind on that. Tell me, you know, reasoning behind in chat, or I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube later, um, feel free to kind of put it in um, make a comment as to reasoning. I mean, someone might, uh, someone might come along to the video at a later date and might appreciate that particular answer. They might wonder, hey, why couldn't he do it? So, if I find an answer, then obviously I'll speak up. But so far, I'm not finding a good one. Um, hmm, I'm not seeing anything here. I really wish I knew the answer to this question. Why can't I do that? I mean, obviously, I can just kind of get rid of these and move on, be done with it. But like I mentioned before, I don't, if I can um, not worry about, um, you know, if I can, you know, basically remove the need for all of these in my one small file, then I would love to do that. Isolate it down so I don't need to use those, the dictionary, the hash set, so on and so forth. You know, um, but I don't know. There might not be a way. I might have to kind of use this. Um, Yeah, it doesn't look like I can. It doesn't look like linked list is its own namespace. Here, let me. I might be messing up on what a namespace is again, so let me look it up. So, oh, that doesn't really help me out very much. Let me do this. Um, um, which your application resides. They're used especially to provide C# compiler with a context for all the named information in your program, such as variable names. Without namespaces, for example, you wouldn't be able to make a class named console. It uses one in its system's namespace. The purpose of the namespaces is to solve this problem, release thousands of names defined in .NET framework for your applications to use, along with making it so your application doesn't occupy names for other applications. If your application is intended to be used in conjunction with another, so namespaces exist to resolve ambiguities a compiler wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Um, 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 Tell the compiler that you're using a certain namespace for your program. Since the compiler would then know that, it no longer requires you to type the namespace name and declare namespaces, which is fine. I understand that. Um, but um, the question is whether or not they are, like abstract or interfaces, which doesn't really make that much sense because they're built-in library functions, which has built-in code for them. I mean, unless you're overwriting the code, there's it's kind of odd um, to kind of deal with that. So mm, I didn't really get the answer that I'm looking for on that. Hmm. That might be the reasoning, actually, now that I think about it. Um, so generic here has classes, structs, and interfaces that it has under its overall namespace. So itself doesn't necessarily have any like built-in code. It doesn't have any kind of like methods or anything along those lines. And that's probably the reasoning why. So because um, linked list isn't just it has methods built into it, it can't be a namespace. Um, let me verify this real quick. C# using Uh, should need to correct the use of I disposable item objects. Um, no, that's not what I want. How you're, it's not the using. Um, okay. Allows the use of types in namespace so that you do not have to qualify the use of a type in that namespace to allow you to access static members and nested types of a type without having to qualify the access of the type name. To create an alias for namespace or a type, this is called using alias directive. Hmm, that's interesting because okay. Okay, so I'm not correct here. It is indeed I should be able to use this. Now, maybe I'm not including the right value here and that's why it's having a hard time with it. Let me see. I mean, that could be the case. We'll see. We'll see if the compiler has a problem with it. Okay, so they're saying using static, which is exactly what um, this is referring to. Um, although that's not including static on there, so it's a little interesting that um, that this example here is showing a way of handling this without the use of static. So that's odd, but maybe this is because we're establishing our own namespaces within our own code using using this. So um, I might need to use static when using predefined library items. Let's try it. So okay, that got rid of those. Um, okay, so we're having an issue with on agent 131. Wait, Boolean isn't available? is not, is Boolean not a type? Oh no, silly me. I'm gonna make sure that I'm not messing up elsewhere. Certain languages love to change things around sometimes. I mean, bool obviously is a shorter way of saying Boolean, so I mean, but certain languages might spell it all the way out, so what have you, whatever. Okay, so that's good. We're getting a little closer here. Um, so we have hex path here that needs to be worked on. So what's going on here now? The type or namespace name linked list could not be found. Okay, what's going on here? Can I not do it this way? Hmm. Hmm. Am I gonna have to maybe do something similar to this? Maybe? Not seeing any examples of it. Hmm. Let me look this up a little bit and see if they have some more examples concerning using the static directive here. Okay, 1 second. Music paused. Nope. You need to be staying active. Okay. When you call a static member, you provide a type name along with a member name. Repeatedly entering the same name to invoke members of type can result in verbose obscure code. For example, the following definition circle or the number of members in the math class. By eliminating the need to explicitly reference the math class each time a member is referenced, the using static directive produces a much cleaner code. then how do I use this for a collection then? Hmm. Let me let me look this up directly by doing using static directive for a collection. Um, Can it not work for collections? So, for those of you that might be wondering, and this is what I'm facing right at this point in time. Okay, so um, so I need a linked list, that is going to be adding the hex tiles into into that particular linked list. Okay, so this satisfies the compiler a little bit. Okay, but the problem is that um, trying to establish a linked list object concerning this is it's having an issue with. So so what's going on here? Can I not do this? And if so, how can I establish a collection? I mean, okay, um, so let's say I just do something like add last X tile and just do that. Where's this going to go to? You know, what uh, what linked list is this going to be referencing? You know, I don't have a named value here. Something something that represents this particular linked list to actually add in to that particular value. So that's why I'm looking at this here and going, wait a second, I need to specify, the named value of this linked list. Otherwise, I'm just gonna cause myself some problems later on. I mean, can I just, can I just do that and be done with it? No, that doesn't make any sense. So, so something else is going on here, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Again, if you're familiar as to what I'm having to kind of deal with, if you're kind of knowing, you know, what I'm kind of tackling, then let me know. Um, see. Go away. And this doesn't show anything useful. Hmm. This is all talking about, um, classes that just have um, methods associated with it, such as write line, write, read line, so on and so forth, which is good, and I get that, but so far I've not seen anything in terms of its use within for a collection, and that's what's kind of throwing me off about it. Mm, I want to know the capacities of this. I want to know the ins and outs of this because otherwise, um, I'll never, I may face this problem later in the future, and I want to try to figure out how to get around this particular issue at some point. You know, so if it's something that I can easily do, then great. I need to learn it. Um, let's see, if you do not provide a fully qualified type name, full namespace name along with the type name. Oh, is that what's going on? Am I gonna have to do that again here? Okay. Is that what I'm facing off against? That's what I was facing off against. Okay. So, so if you do not provide a fully qualified type name, the full namespace name along with the type name, C# generates a compiler error. The type of namespace name, type namespace, could not be found, which is exactly what I was dealing with. Are you using a, are you missing a using directive or assembly reference? Okay, that's what was going on down there. Okay, so because I wasn't using this entire library down here again, I was causing a problem for myself here. Now, um, now I only need to use it like once, I believe. Um, I might have some additional problems with it later with linked list node. Let's debug again. Um, so this kind of concerns me a little bit that they're not having an issue with this versus this. Maybe it's part of the enumeration that allows for it to do that. Not sure. Um, the fact that the compiler isn't addressing it is interesting. Um, so I'm gonna have to kind of, that's something to kind of note a little bit. The fact that I had to use this to handle, the using of statics, and the fact that this is perfectly reasonable within the enumeration, um, within the for each. So I'll have to remember that, or at least I'll have to try to remember that in the future. So, okay. Problem solved, I guess. Let's go ahead and move on to the next error in the list here. So we're looking at hex tile here. Let's see, we have namespace of hash table. Okay. Right, because I'm not using the generics for hash table. Silly me. So we can kind of take this and we can add that here. Hash int xpath. There we go. Save that, and we should be good. Actually, I need to add this to that, I believe. Like we had here. So we should be good here now. Wait, I thought hash table was part of generic. Was I wrong on that? It is not. Or wait. Apparently not. Okay, it's under collections itself. Interesting. It's not under generics. Okay. I mean, sure. It's kind of interesting the fact that um, hash tables isn't, associated with generics, but then again, they might be like putting a lot of these values in a hash table. But no, wait, that doesn't really make any sense because um, hash tables under collections. So okay, if you're watching this right at the moment and you're trying to figure out if you're not really understanding what I'm talking about here. Um, so under under system collections here, you basically have two dividing paths in this particular case. One, you have generic, which has all these different classes underneath it, you know, generics is more of an interface abstract, more probably abstract than the interface, but I'm not sure. I'm not diving too deep into what generic is. Um, but it has multiple different classes under, that particular branch uh, you know, of the library. Okay, you know, and under collections, okay, you have, you know, you have hash table. Okay, so they're basically two dividing branches. Okay, so hash table isn't part of generics. It's its own um, substructure of collections, which is again interesting. So you have stack, you have array list, dictionary base, you have sorted list. Hmm. Wait, where's generics? Why isn't it being referenced here? It should be here. Hmm. That's odd. It's under the collections. Hmm. Let's see. Um, System.collections. Interesting. So what I find um, what I find a little interesting on this is here. Let me move this into like a new window here, um, so that you can kind of see a side-by-side comparison between the two. So um, under the collections namespace here, you have you know stack versus the generic generics under collections, with stack. How are these, how are they different? Well, I mean, this one is, dealing with, the stack generic, um, meaning that you can basically put whatever values you want into this particular stack. Now, if we compare these two, you have, um, something that just basically takes in non-generic collection of objects, meaning that it will take whatever it it wants into that particular stack. Okay, so in this particular case, it's taking in strings. Okay, Now, um, now if you were to try to put in like a different object into it, I would imagine that it would have an issue with that. So, um, I would imagine if you were to do something like, you know, here's a stack, we're going to push a string into the stack, and you were suddenly, going to push a numeric value like an int into the stack, it might have a problem with that. Probably. Maybe. Not sure. Um, it's not really showing an example of what it can and can't really do. Well, I mean, it's showing what it can do, but it's not showing what it can't do. So, um, stack accepts null as a valid value and allows duplicate elements. That's fine, but can it take in different um, object types? Um, let's see. It's not addressing that, which is interesting. You would think the documentation would address that. You know, can it add different um, can it add different objects, like a string, an integer, what can it add in there? So, you know, does it really matter? Does it really care? Is it gonna cause an issue if the object is different each and every single time? Um, whereas for this, when you're pushing it in, it has to be a specific um, type on the stack. If you if you specify the type, it has to be of that type. It's gonna cause a problem if you try to put some other value. If you try to put some other type into the stack here, then it's gonna have an issue. Okay, it's gonna error out. Um, you're trying to force um, force a value into a stack that it doesn't like. So that's interesting. You would think that um, that they would basically default um, some of these classes here under the generic, and then just say you know stack generic object in this particular case, but no, I guess not. So that's interesting. This might be fairly um, like older code maybe, um, like their first um, construction of stack, hash table, and so on and so forth that didn't use generics, and then when they've figured out, when they developed generics, they decided to put that in, under collections. Maybe, I'm not, I don't really know the history of C sharp and their process, what, as they kind of stepped through all the versions, where it kind of rolled into. So, you know, what came first, stack or generic stack? Who knows? Um, Again, it's still interesting the fact that they don't show generics here at all. So that's what's kind of throwing me off about this. It's not being included here. So, whatever. Um, we're not needing to worry about it too much as it is anyway. It was just something that I was kind of curious about, what's going on there. The fact that uh, generics isn't being shown under the collections namespace, even though it it is under the collections namespace. I don't know. Okay. Sorry for kind of getting off track there. Just kind of curious about it all. Um, so, hey there, Ches. How you doing, bud? Welcome back to the stream. How you doing? Okay, so it's having some issues. Oh, oh, we got some more compiling here, so let's go ahead and take care of that. Doing good. What's the hash table stuff about? Well, I'm just um uh, what I'm doing right now is um, so I'm so for the game, um, each agent is going to be on each and every single individual tile. Here, let me bring that. Um, Let me move this to a new window here. So, our agents are going to be on their, own individual tile. Okay, and they need to go to, and uh, the player designates that they need to go get a particular resource, or they need to build a barrier somewhere, or it might be a monster trying to go to the human city, so they have a particular destination. So the D star is going to find a path from the origin to the destination, and we need to um, kind of store each one of those paths. What I want to do is I want to say, hey, for this particular tile, I want you to keep this already established D star path to this particular tile saved so that it can be referenced again. So if, say, another agent comes along and they want to get to this particular tile again, they can. They can take the exact same path because that's already been an established path already. So it doesn't need to worry about having to redo the D star over and over and over again. Now, obviously, this is going to be taking up a lot of storage space in terms of um, keeping um, keeping the correct path for every single tile that is going to be on the map, but it has the potential of kind of saving a little bit of time in late game, because in late game we're going to have more agents out on the field, and that means more uh, more initializ more you know D stars going off all at the same time. So I'm trying to save a little bit on that end, um, because got the damn bug finally. Um, I'm trying to um, save on the cost. As more agents get to this particular tile and they want to get to this particular tile, that path has already been established, so they just kind of look at this particular hash table to find the path to it, grab it, and use it. So they don't have to go through the D star, you know, um, to find the path again. Um, Now, obviously, with the map changing a bit in terms of barriers and resources um, being placed and being removed, respectively, um, or barriers being torn down, um, pathing will need to be um, redone. Um, it needs to kind of be reestablished again. But I have methods on working on that already. So um, so yeah, this is what I'm kind of looking at right at the moment, and obviously um, our compiler is having an issue with um, non-generic types. So is there a reason to use of hash table over dictionary? Um, um, well, the one thing that I want to be careful with, okay, is so um, the integer value here, the key has to be um, has to be different each and every single time, which I could probably use a dictionary for. Um, what was the reasoning behind hash table versus dictionary? There was a reason behind it. What was the reasoning? What was the reasoning behind the method behind my madness? Hash table versus dictionary. Um, I think this is the reasoning behind it. Hash tables thread safe. Um, Now, yeah, don't know if using a public static dictionary will work for this. So, yeah, that's um, I I get that, and I'm gonna have to correct that. Um, so so the reasoning behind this is that at some point in time, you know, um, I want, it would probably be in my best interest to try to build this in a fashion where all of my agents are going to be um, kind of referencing, separate threads at some point in time, to try to, process everything a little bit faster. Um, but maybe Unity already does that automatically for me. I'm not sure. Um, you know, thread safe is probably good to have for any pathfinding algorithm. Yeah, I mean, the um, so with the game, I have the potential of having, you know, uh, probably like 20 agents all at the same time moving about the map. Now, if at any particular point in time, you know, like you might have two agents needing to establish their path at the same time. So that's the reasoning behind, um, that I kind of want to use a thread safe hash table because, um, I want them to be able to kind of access the hash table and not really, destroy the information contained within the hash table prematurely. Um, so I gotta be really careful with this. So that's the reason why I was kind of going more hash table than I was dictionary on this particular instance. Um, One point though is the speed of the hash table. Um, yeah, my concern though is that if um, the thing with this map pathing, because I'm using D star, the path itself could potentially change for um, this particular hash. The coordinates that I'm using in this, um, the path might actually change. You know, so like for example, let me go back to this point here. So let's say we have this path originally to get from our um, where we're standing to our destination. Um, but at some point in time, maybe there is a barrier that gets kind of placed, you know, along this particular row here. So now I have to go, instead of this way, I have to kind of go around. So the path the path changes to kind of get around this particular barrier. So I don't know. It's something that I'm having to kind of worry about there a little bit. So I see. I'm no expert on pathfinding algorithms, but what I suspect is that you'd want to be searching for the path to be multi-threaded. But once the search is done, you'll likely want to return it to the main thread to use it. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Um, the the tiles path could potentially change, um, based off of, um, so, um, so D star, um, one of the positives of D star is the fact that you can get, um, if the D star algorithm, if it starts kind of following a path, once it gets to a particular destination, it sees the fact that it um, there's a barrier in between it, so it uses the old path that it has to try to reestablish a different path for it. Okay, that's the reason, um, it's slightly different than A star in that um, it uses its old uh, it uses its old path to reestablish a new route for it. So uh, let's see. Once you search this time, which could be a good place to add it to a dictionary that you can keep out of the multi-threaded code. Hmm. At this point in time, I'm not quite sure if I can even use Hashtable at this point. Um, hmm. I mean, if I can't specify the generics for it, then how do I get um, how do I get it to add the key on there? So I might have to switch back to dictionary anyway. Um, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so I just need to add values based off of what I need to do on that. Hmm. And I just reference it as key and value on that. Okay. Um, hmm. Interesting, interesting, interesting. I'm guessing you can use hashtable add key object just the same as dictionary, but the difference is that the int can be converted to object internally, aka boxing, which is slow memory process. Yeah, yeah, that's basically what I'm 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 seeing as well. Um, Surprised hashtable doesn't actually have a generic by itself. but apparently that's basically it's an equivalent of dictionary, which isn't thread safe. I wonder why. Why does generic not work for being thread safe? Hmm. I mean, you would think that if it already has an idea of the objects in there, um, it would automatically know. It wouldn't necessarily need to worry about boxing on that. It would be automatically kind of set. Hmm. This one of the positives of trying to tackle. Um, I mean, it's uh, what I kind of loved, what I kind of love about doing Unity. You know, I mean, I could follow tutorials and so on and so forth, but when you start really kind of getting down into the code and start, coding it out using C sharp and the like, you start coming up with these kind of questions where it's like, why is this one over that one? Why, are you kind of dealing with, this over that, that kind of thing. So, um, perhaps concurrent dictionary is the best of both worlds. Is it thread safe? Let me, let me look. Represents a thread-safe collection of key-value pairs that can be accessed by multiple threads concurrently. Uh-huh. I mean, it's stating it right here, so um, again, it's not. Wait, it's under a different collection. It's not under the generic. It's under a concurrent namespace. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So, um, yeah, pretty much. And obviously you have, multiple different um, classes that you can kind of use if you're interested. So, um, hmm, I might want to go ahead and use that then. I mean, I could still use the hash table on this, but at the same time, if it's going to be really slow, then what if the boxing and unboxing of the values in the hash table is going to be super slow, you know, overall, then which one is the better of the two? Let's go ahead and look that up. So, concurrent dictionary versus hash table. Let's see. Um, Historically, I've seen the hash table be favored over concurrent dictionary with the assumption that it was more efficient, allowing for free lock-free reads, or that both allow lock-free reads, so which one is really the better option? First, some basics. Hash table requires both key and value to be of type object. It means that you use value types, they will be boxed. It also means that you need to cast your values to the correct type when you get them in order to actually do something useful. The concurrent dictionary, however, is a generic type, so no boxing or casting. The advantage concurrent dictionary. When it comes to reading, both collections allow for lock-free reading, which should be very effective. Writing, however, is interesting. While the concurrent dictionary guarantees that writes are atomic, the hash table is only thread safe if written to by a single thread at a time. Okay. This means you either need to write your code so that only one thread ever writes to a hash table, or you need to add your own lock around it. Not having to deal with that is naturally a better option, in my opinion, so advantage concurrent dictionary. Okay. Um, Sometimes you need to enumerate all values or keys in your dictionary. Not necessarily. If you have the right key, you shouldn't necessarily need to worry about that. Um, but no, that's not exactly true because, um, well, okay. If you're trying to go through every single element of the, dictionary versus the hash table, then yeah, you're trying to enumerate them. So current dictionary allows you to enumerate the collection safely, but if the collection is modified during the enumeration, you may or may not get the new values in your enumeration. Interesting. A hash table, however, throws an exception if modified during an enumeration. Interesting. The easy fix for that is to use a read-write lock for your hash table and acquire the read lock during enumerations and the write lock for modification. Since I don't like unidentified behavior of the current concurrent dictionary, it is advantage hash table. Interesting. Okay, um, so while you're enumerating through your concurrent dictionary, if there is a change in the value, then like at around the same time of the thread, then it's not gonna really show that. So, or it's not gonna show the fact that that got changed at that particular moment in time. But at the same time, if you are um, if you're like enumerating through the dictionary and a change comes after that, then that's your um, it's going to be a little interesting on that end. So, whereas with a hash table, it basically throws an exception. So, if there is a change to the hash table, it basically says, hey, wait, we got a problem here. Um, so, um, but at the same time, if you are trying to add, if you're trying to add into the concurrent dictionary, then I would imagine that you'd probably want to um, kind of block any particular reads at that particular time, or at least, you know, um, if there like is a read happening to your concurrent dictionary, you should probably try to pause any kind of adds to it, maybe. But then again, if you have like multiple reads over and over and over again, then you're never going to have your ad being added into the dictionary. So you're basically creating yourself what's it called, a basically it's a lock. You're causing a lock to that particular thread from progressing any further past that. So you'll need to um, you'll need to figure out, um, like a particular ordering of it all. So like if there's a read happening, obviously, then you'll want to kind of pause um, any like additional reads to it. If you're doing like enumeration, obviously. Um, I don't. I'm not going to be using enumeration at all, so I don't necessarily need to worry about this particular in 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 this in particular because I'm going to be referencing every single node, by using the hash value or the key value. So I'm not going to scroll through all the possible paths anyway in the concurrent dictionary. So I don't necessarily need to worry about this. So performance is always important. Yeah. I ran 2 tests for each of the collections while writing this. First, I had 5 threads read data from each collection, and then I inserted a large number of values while letting 5 threads read data at the same time. When I came to only doing reads, in my test, the hash table was slightly faster. Interesting. Okay. Relatively speaking, the hash table allowed me to do almost 10% more reads than per second than the concurrent dictionary. Okay. When the writes were introduced, however, I got into some interesting results. The hash table could still do 10% more reads per second, but it took twice the time to insert the same number of elements. Since I think the combination of reads and writes are what you expect when using these collections, I have to say advantage concurrent dictionary. Okay. Um, so all in all, I must say that concurrent dictionary is a winner since it means your code will be nicer and you also seem to get better performance out of it if you have several updates per second. I would only consider the hash table if I need to enumerate the collection a lot or if the concurrent dictionary turns out to be insufficient performance for the specific scenario I'm working on. Okay, I found another one. So if you plan to do multi-threading using Unity's job system, recommended, then you might want to have to use their native collections for thread safety. Native hash map is the equivalent they made for this. There is some caveats on write operations from thread though. Okay, let's look into that. Native hash map. Struct, huh? Interesting. Okay. It's created. Length, clear, disposed, get key array allocator, get value array, remove. Current, try add, try get value. Okay. For more information on native collection is displaying the native container page on in their documentation. Okay, let's go ahead and look that up. Let's see. Draw back to the safety systems process of copying data so that it also isolates the result of the job without each copy. To overcome this limitation, you need to store the results in a type of shared memory called native container. What is a native container? A managed value type that provides relatively safe C# wrapper for native memory. It contains a pointer to the unmanaged allocation. Unmanaged. When using the Unity C# job system, native container allows the job to access data shared with the main thread rather than working with a copy. Types of native container are available. Let's see. Any component system, package extended. Types of native creator. This native crit types attracts what is rooting right into any native container. All safety checks on native container types, such as out-of-bound checks, deallocation checks, and race condition checks, are only available in the Unity editor and play mode. That's a little concerning. Is the play mode associated when you actually build the game as executable? Yeah, play mode is equal in editor plus pressing play, right? Not on a build. So, so why are they not doing any safety checks during for the build itself? Because um, when you're playing a game and all that jazz, then if you have a potential race condition during the game, then you're basically going to have a crash during the game. You're going to have runtime. Um, you're going to have a runtime issue along those lines. I would assume it's because the safety checks could be having performance drawbacks. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, um, I'm a little concerned about this. I mean, am I gonna have to, is there a way for me to perform my own safety checks inside my code to handle this? Um, there's a lot of stuff that's in the programmer's hands whenever doing multi-threading in general. Yeah, no, believe me, I get that. So, yes, okay. Um, well, if it's in my hands, then, hmm, what's the difference between these? If you know your usage of collection, you probably also know its boundaries. Yeah, pretty much. Well, okay, what's kind of concerning about me, in this is the fact that, hash map should have, if you're adding value into the hash map, then it's going to be adding onto, it's going to be adding the key and the value to it every single time, you know, unless you are specifically stating a certain size of these particular containers each and every single time, you know, which it doesn't look like you're doing anyway on that. Then number one in the example above indicates the size of the native array. In this case, it only has one array element. But do you need that though? Um, So say you have a finite number of tiles, and that's the absolute upper limit of the number of paths you could have. But you might want to limit the number of paths you cache to save management anyway, in which case you might want to write code that keeps track of how many paths you are storing, and which are more disposable if you approach your limit. Well, that's the problem though, is the fact that, as these maps get larger and larger in size, so do the possible amount of paths that we could take. And with the um, with the possibility of having your workers and monsters going off, randomly, they might not always follow the path accordingly. Like if they, do a if say like the human finds a monster and they get scared and they just kind of run off in some random direction, then they might need to establish a brand new path based off of where they end up at. So um, that's what's kind of worrisome about this. Um, Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna have like huge like World of Warcraft maps here. Okay, there is these maps are finite, and um, they had the potential of being. Um, I mean, the size of them can be fairly small in the very first couple levels, but they do increase in size as the player progresses through the list of um, you know as the player wins each one of the levels do get harder, but they also increase in size to kind of the amount of um, manage the amount of resources that are going to be available to the player, to manage the amount of agents that are going to be on the map, and to allow for a little bit more time for the monsters to actually get to the human city. Um, but obviously that increases that increases the storage of each of these nodes based off of what I'm trying to do. So, um, this might get to a point where it might not really work for a mobile game. But I mean, mobile gaming is getting better and better, obviously. The fact that you have um, pretty much 3D operations, happening on these game, on your mobile, um, means that it can handle a lot more than before. So again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where my game could potentially go for this. So um, hmm. I mean, I don't necessarily need to worry about native array anyway because um, I'm not using an array to store anything anyway. So so we don't necessarily need to worry about that. Hmm. When creating a native container, you must specify the type of memory allocation you need. The allocation type depends on the length of time the job runs. This way you can tailor the allocation to get the best performance possible in each situation. There are three allocator types for using native container memory allocation release. You need to specify the appropriate one when instantiating your native container. Allocator temp is the fastest allocation. It is for allocations with a lifespan of one frame or fewer. You should not pass native container allocations using temp to jobs. You also need to call the dispose method before you return from the method call. Okay. Um, temp job is a slower allocation than temp, but is faster than persist. Is for allocations within the lifespan of 4 frames and is thread safe. Okay. If you don't dispose of it within 4 frames, the console prints a warning generated from the native code. Most small jobs use the native container allocation type. Okay. Allocator persistent is the slowest allocation, but can last as long as you need it to, and is necessary throughout the application's lifetime. I don't need it to last the application's lifetime. It just needs to last for that one particular level. So, so it will be removed each and every single time. It is wrapper for a direct call to malloc. Longer jobs can use the native container allocation type. You should not use persistent where performance is essential. Hmm. Let's see. Um, yeah, no, I get that, Jax. I get that. Um, the whole native array is the list version, native hash map is the dictionary version. No, I get that. Um, so what I need to do now is um, native hash map versus concurrent container. Wow, okay, so there's not much in terms of that. No one's really done any kind of um, no one's done any kind of comparison between the two. Um, let's see. There's a lot of details around multi-threading, whether you go for Unity jobs or not. But my impression is that jobs are somewhat safer to work with and fits better into other benefits that Unity offers, such as burst. They relieve you of some of the things that can go bad, such as rogue threads upon closing the program, etc. Hmm. Let's see. Hmm. Well, my problem is that I'm um, not 100% sure. I haven't used native hash map before with Unity, so and I'm a little concerned about it. Um, Seeing that um, I don't need to worry about native array, and that's not my interest in that right at this point in time. Um, I'm more concerned with the hash map. Um, Let me do just a simple search for the native hash map and see. Oh wait, did that bring that up to back to the native container? No, okay. Um, okay, so here's basically the API, all the methods to call that you can use, the property types and the like. Let's see. I want to look at how to go about using this a little bit more. For what it's worth, though, you can always change the type of the container later whenever you opt for multi-threading. Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, um, let's face it. When I'm, when, okay, so here, let me kind of show you the idea of, um, what, um, as that some amount of what I kind of expect to be kind of happening for my game, or like what I kind of want to um, what I kind of want to try to show for the most part. Let me kind of go more towards the middle. So see, each one of these agents are kind of moving on their own separate path, doing their own separate things. They're kind of going to their own destination. Now, obviously, this appears that it's lagging pretty bad right at this moment in time, and I don't necessarily want that to happen. Now, this is an older game, and if I remember correctly, they didn't deal with any kind of like multi-threading, or there wasn't really that big of a like a multi-threading for this particular game. So you can definitely see that it's kind of chugging pretty well, for what you're kind of seeing. I mean, it's doing a fairly good job with it all, but I would love to kind of get to a point where, um, the movements that you're seeing here are, you know, here's where the like you have a number of citizens, their movement patterns are perfectly fine. They're moving at a decent pace, whereas, you know, you take a look here and you start seeing some sluggish movement for the most part. So, um, yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, single core, you didn't have, uh, you know, you didn't really have the concept of multi-threading, back then. It was all kind of being funneled into a single core, and obviously, the process of all that was, trying to be handled by a CPU. Then you have the graphics card, now stepping in to try to handle, more of that ability and whatnot. So, um, but the idea is to kind of get to a point where, I have a lot of agents on the screen or in the game being handled by the game engine, you know, um, and the amount being shown here could potentially be the amount that you're going to be seeing late game, possibly. I'm just, again, I haven't gotten to the point of being at a point of, um, um, game balance and like, testing the game out, seeing if it works, if it works well on my computer, then it's probably gonna work pretty much well on any other computer. Okay, I don't have necessarily the best graphics card. Now, if it works extremely well on my computer, then obviously great. We've I kind of did what I set out to do. But if it starts really kind of chugging along in the later levels, then I'm gonna need to figure out some ways of trying to handle it a little bit better. And as you mentioned, the checks, it might be just as simple as switching over from what I currently have, which is, well, I'll probably be switching from Hashtable over to concurrent collections over to the Unity's version of um, native hash map. So I'll go ahead and kind of make a note of it here. Um, may need to switch to native hash map for Unity's engine slash multi-threading. So make a note of that there so that I can modify it at a later date if it starts getting to a point where um, the um, concurrent collection isn't handling it the way I want it to, or um, it's not uh, the speed on which it's trying to find a pathing is really slowing down in the later game. So um, yeah, pretty much. I mean, unless you have the experience to already predict how the multi-threaded code would have to work, you will likely have to rewrite parts of any code you write today anyway when you get that far. Exactly, exactly. Um, um, I mean, as it stands right now, I'm I don't have I don't have um, work experience with threading, anyway. Okay, what I've learned about threading, I learned from college, and even then, that wasn't a ton. Okay, um, so now we're getting into, we're going to be eventually getting to a point where, I'm going to be putting, pushing this to the extremes later on in the code. So, eventually we'll get to that point where I'm gonna need to um, really make sure that I'm not, clobbering data, or I'm not causing myself additional problems, later on. So, um, uh, in my experience, I find that just getting something working on a basic level, then upgrading is much quicker than planning too far ahead. Well, I mean, there is benefits to planning things out. Okay, if you have the experience, okay, um, which obviously I do not. Okay, um, I found that when you write out like a UML or a diagram showing how to actually what you want to kind of see in the construction of a program, it's so much faster actually building it after the fact. Okay, but that's the thing, you have to get to a point of you know being able to write out the UML, you know so that you can eventually get to that point of Um, we can close that down. Um, we getting to the point of um, if you're kind of working on code, without the UML, you're gonna start causing yourself some problems, later on. Which, obviously I am, but I mean that's fine. This is my very first game outside of the tutorials. So I'm gonna have some problems, and that's okay. I'm learning as I go. Um, I'm learning I'm learning Unity, I'm learning C Sharp as I'm moving along on this. So as I'm experiencing it, I get more experience at it, so that the next version or the next game will be a little bit better than the previous version, and that's understandable. Once it starts getting into a point where um, I can kind of generate a UML, then that's going to be great, because then I can take that UML and I can basically say, okay, I need a couple of I need a couple of additional programmers. And then I can actually divvy out portions of the UML to different programmers and say, I need you to work on this portion. I need you to work on that portion. I need you to work on this portion. We all combine it into one particular program, and bam, there you go. Okay. You now have a working program in a very short amount of time. Okay. Otherwise, um, if you're trying to make a program without it, you start running into problems, because now you're going to be having to kind of constantly talking with your other, especially if you're like on a larger team, because now you're having to kind of talk with your other programmers and saying, you know, uh, hey, I need you to send me some, I need you to send me the concurrent collection. And they're like, well, wait a minute, I just made a dictionary. You see what I'm saying? Um, so, UMLs can be really useful, when you first start out, especially when it comes to teams. You know, I can't stress that enough. um, I say that because I remember, uh, I was on a team of, I think it was like 5 or 6 of us on a particular team. I forget exactly how many, uh, but um, we were we were tasked with designing a program to use artificial intelligences. Okay, so we sat down and we were like going, okay, what do we want to do? Well, let's create a game of Risk. So we started like writing down all that we kind of need to do, all the rules of it, and so on and so forth. And then we started constructing the UML of it all. Okay, and then we were able to say, okay, this particular person is good with writing the engine, this particular person is good with writing the graphics, particular person is good with writing the sound, so on and so forth. And we were able to kind of divvy out portions of the overall structure of it all to make it into one cohesive program. Obviously one person didn't write it all out, and the other four was like just wrote out the app, the AIs. You know, that would have been too much on that one particular person to do that. So, but we had a UML showing the overall structure of the Risk game. I mean, it was fairly basic, but it was enough to kind of get a general sense of what we needed for that particular section of code. So, um, I didn't necessarily do that here. Um, I kind of wrote down what I kind of needed to do, but I don't have the experience enough to know about C Sharp and Unity to develop a proper UML, I would have had to have like rewritten the UML over and over and over again because obviously I've had to do a lot of rework over the time. So um, just trying to understand what I needed to do with Unity to to get to this particular stage. I mean, hell, let's see. Um, just look at my board manager right at this moment in time and see, all the code that I just kind of commented out because, I was having some difficulty with um, trying to figure out the concepts that I needed to do, you know, as I continued to progress through Unity. So obviously there was some parts of this that I was like, yeah, I'm having some difficulty. But that's the thing. I was new to Unity. I was new to um, C Sharp, and while I did do the um, basic tutorial, what was it called? It was the 2D roguelike tutorial. You can look it up on YouTube. It's there. It's obviously the old version of Unity. I'd had a little bit of problems with that. I mean, you can look at my YouTube channel and see my progress through the 2D roguelike and the issues that I had with it. Um, but you've seen it, yeah, yeah. Um, but you know, it didn't prepare me well enough for everything that I kind of wanted to do because it was, first off, it was square based, not hex tile based. So I had to learn how to work with the hex tiles, for example. Hex tile map. And even then, it still feels as though I'm not using it as correctly as I probably could be. So I'm probably messing up somewhere along those lines. Um, along those, I'm probably messing up on the usage the on the hex tile map from, built by Unity. So I'm probably having some issues with that. Still. Um, but, you know, at one particular point in time, I was thinking maybe I'll use, when I was trying to design the construction of the maze, I was thinking about using Kushkal's, for example, Kushkal's grid algorithm to kind of create a map. But, well, I still am, I guess. Um, but obviously, I was modifying my code over time to try to figure out, where, you know, where should I be adding, um, this particular section of code? How do I modify it? How do I change it? And so on and so forth. So, it's a work in progress, and that's fine. You know, um, I'm commenting out this code because I don't know if I might need it again later. You know, I'm kind of referencing it, but I might need it later on. As I progress through um, the overall lifetime for this particular game. It's slow, but um, you know, it will eventually get to the point where um, I finish it and all that. So yeah. you know. So yeah, let's go ahead and add in the um, we'll use um, the concurrent dictionary here in this particular case, not the hash table. So we're going to need to use this particular namespace. So that's going to be interesting here. Um, so let's see. Let me bring this up so that I make sure that I get this correct. Okay, so what I want to do is we're going to use concurrent dictionary. Oh, dictionary. And then we need to add concurrent there. Do I need to make it static though? Hmm, probably. Yeah, let me see if I take it out if it's gonna give me a problem with it. So let's see, let's go ahead and put that there. Go ahead and remove this, and let's see if this works with the engine. Okay, so I got about 20 more minutes left before I have to shut on down. I don't have to shut on down. It's just I keep with 4 hours. uh, Makes thing, you know, just trying to upload these videos to YouTube takes a while. So okay. Um, yeah. So it's basically suggesting I use static. So they're basically saying, hey, use static here. And then we need to add this down below here for it to work properly. Oh, thank you for the follow though, Chess. Appreciate it. Okay. Um, you know, just so you're aware, I do these coding streams every Sunday. So, um, if that's, you know, if you're always interested in, you know, my coding streams, you can always come back. Or if you're interested in my, um, you know, Unity, C Sharp, game building coding sessions, I always do it on Sundays. So, you're always welcome back every Sunday on that. So, um, should be fine with just right using just wanting some quick access. I was just the reason why I'm doing this is that you know, I don't need the entire library of concurrent, you know, in this particular file. That's why I use this. I'm isolating it down to one particular section of the library, so I don't need the rest of the library added in for that particular file. That's all. So, um, oh. Mm, Okay, so getting a little bit closer and handling our errors here, so that's good. Let's go ahead and reduce down our size here again. Okay, so we're looking at hex tile keys errors in this particular instance. So that's it there. Right, I had to move this over from I moved this from the board. I put it as a subclass, and I'm like going, no, that's not right. What am I doing? Um, that's not correct. Okay, so obviously I need to reference this. So um, okay, we're having some issues here with my Visual Studio Code right at the moment. There we go. Let's see, scroll on up. Oh, we are experiencing some lag. Sorry there, folks. Hopefully you're still here with me. I'm apparently having some issues. Okay, I'm hearing this song over and over and over again. Let's go ahead and kind of change things up a bit. I have this list of, YouTube songs that I like to kind of listen to. We're back, exactly. Not for long, but we're still here. Had a spike in performance there, so it's kind of weird because it always feels like at around 5:45 I always have a large internet spike. 5:45 my time anyway. So it always happens like right at the very tail end of my stream, and it's like, oof. Oh well, what can one do? Um, let's see. Obviously need the library usage for Incredible here. So let's see. Okay, so it's under system. So using system, can I do Incredible here? Will that work? Oh, okay. So I need to do this. Which I guess I need to use static here as well. Apparently. And it it's still having an issue here, so, but I mean, I don't need to put much there, so it should be good here. Okay, we got a lot more errors now that we've taken care of that. So, which is interesting that certain errors were kind of blocking other errors from showing up. It's weird, but whatever. Okay, so we have hex path. Yeah, I figured that this was going to be kind of a problem. So that's here. Hmm. You know, so you do using blah 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 if that's simpler. Well, I mean, for some of these, such as this, I only need to do it once. If I was reusing it over and over and over again, then yeah, I would totally use what you were doing there. You can also do using some class T, generic T is equal to systems dot some class generic T if that's simpler. I would totally use that if I was having to kind of if I had like multiple lines of code that had to use, you know, the like a creation of a linked list. But I only need to do it once in this particular case, for example. So there's no need for me to like create it another time. Now, if I was to do that for say like the game manager here, like if I was to take um, if I wanted to do say like list for example, and I wanted to um, I needed to kind of create a like multiple lists or multiple tile maps or multiple cameras or whatnot, then yeah, I would definitely use that particular method of it all. Um, but yeah, I don't necessarily need to worry about it too much along those lines. So okay, so we're still having an issue with this. Okay, so hmm, trying to iterate through path to take and pull out each hex tile, or we're trying to pull out each node from this particular linked list. But it appears that I don't need to. It looks like it's seeing hex tile key by itself. So if I do that, it should be fine. Okay. figured that I had to actually get the specific node out of the linked list without um, prior to actually accessing the value contained within said node. So the fact that I can actually iterate through the linked list without actually having to access the node is a positive, but we'll see if that is actually correct. Yeah, I'm not getting any errors for it. Interesting. So technically, I don't really need this. I mean, I'm commenting it out for now because maybe later on I may need to access the nodes specifically. Maybe. But, you know, if this is basically saying, hey, no problems on this, then who am I to argue? Okay, let's move on to the next error. Obviously, I'm probably going to need to be tackling these errors again next week. And thankfully, you know, um, you know, the setup for the D star, did take a while. I get it. I wasn't working on D star directly right now, but I needed to um, I need to kind of build it so that um, storage of these paths for the D star was going to be handled properly so that I can store each node of the D star's path into my hex path class here so I can reuse it again next time. Um, so apologies to anyone that just was kind of coming into this going, hey, um, you're doing D star, great, I want to learn. I get it, I understand. I'd be kind of wondering about it myself, but I mean, it's a process. I was kind of hoping that I would be able to kind of quickly finish off all of these errors and move on, but I mean, it happens. Sometimes you have to figure things out. So okay, so they're having an issue on 44 here for max tiles. Max tiles was something being referenced here on the board. Yeah. I don't necessarily want to reference the board within the hex tile. Hmm. I'm gonna need to try to figure this out a little bit more. And obviously the hash key probably needs to be modified a little bit as well. Obviously, I initially was saying that this was a prime number, and that's incorrect. Obviously I was using, the value that I was kind of generating here for, you know, um, I was looking at it and I'm like going, I'm never gonna have more than 1,000 tiles um, on this, but um, but I may need to kind of change this around, make it into like a prime number to kind of make things a little bit easier for the hash key to be unique each and every single time. Hmm. Um, But again, I'm probably going to need to um, figure out what I want to kind of do with this as well, because obviously I'm referencing something that was contained in Board Manager, and I need to fix that. So, but that's unfortunately something that I'm going to have to probably tackle again next week. Um, I kind of came to today's conclusion of the coding that I was going to do. Obviously, we tackled quite a few issues today, um, and hopefully, we won't. We're not like shooting ourselves in the foot later on down the uh, later on down in our development of the game. But I mean, um, like I said, it's always a learning experience. So eventually, I'm gonna have to, if it is like shooting myself in the foot, then I'll be limping for a little while to like, correct my mistakes. Like I said, it's a learning experience. So, um, you live and learn. So, hopefully, my pain, my shooting myself in the foot will be more of a learning experience for you, as you progress if you're watching this. So, Chex, thank you for stopping on by there, bud. I appreciate your help on this. Um, let's see. Was there any other commenters today? No, there wasn't anyone else that joined me today, but that's okay. Maybe people were lurking, and that's fine as well. Um, so I need to go through my little ending spiel, which is first I want to address the fact that I did create a stream team. It's not an official Twitch stream, so if you're looking at it going, what's going on there? It's not official. I don't have a partner, you know, um, sponsoring it, but that's okay, because the idea of the team is meant to help out every single platform that's out there, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook gaming, and any other streaming service that, comes out, now or in the future. The team is meant to build to allow to kind of help out, no matter who streams. Okay, and the team is built so that streamers and non-streamers alike can help out on the team. Okay, so the whole idea of it is that every single person that streams in the team um, gets some get some help in some fashion or another. Okay, if they wanna, if they've never streamed before and they want some help on, techniques on how to go about streaming, then that's what the team is meant to do. It's supposed to help out in that regard. If you want to become like a VTuber, there should be, people on the team that should help on that regards. Okay, if you have a special event, like you want to do like a charity event or something along those lines, we have subgroups set up so that they can help promote your charity event. So um, I've put together a Google document outlining everything that I want to see with the team. So the application link is down below on my Twitch About page. So click on the application link. The Google Doc is shown on that very first page of the application. So check out that Google Doc. If it's something that interests you, it's all meant to try to help everybody else out. I designed it in a sense of a pay it forward kind of a system. Everybody is helping out everybody else to basically build the team up into, to the point where, potentially we all become partners. So, um, that might not necessarily happen but that's the idea. You know, we all want to try to help everybody else out. Um, so, you know, everybody could have the potential for viewership. So, it all depends on the audience. So, um, so that's the idea. That's you know, to try to pay it forward, help out those that are potentially struggling, that might need some advice, might need some help. Um, so that's the kind of the mission statement of what the team is all about. So check out the Google Doc. If it's something that kind of interests you, if you feel like you can contribute to the team, go to the application page, fill out the application, submit it. Um, you know, if like I said, if you're not a streamer or if you are a streamer, you're both welcome. So, um, so fill it out, submit it. I'll review it. Or if the team suddenly starts taking off and we start getting more and more members, then we may have an application team later on down the line. So and they might review it. So and we'll send you an email. Um, you know, on whether you enter into the team or not. Okay. We want like-minded individuals, so those individuals that are just kind of into streaming just for themselves, they are, uh, they just kind of want to progress themselves and they don't care about anyone else. Probably not the best fit for the team. Probably not the best fit. Okay. We want to see you succeed, but we also want you to kind of join the community as well. So, um, so hopefully, if you're interested in it, then we'll be seeing you on the team. So, um, but that's the team. Um, but so all these streams, all these videos are eventually uploaded to my YouTube channel. So feel free to check that out. Got a link down below on my Twitch About page for that. I also have links to my Discord, my Patreon, and my Twitter account down below on my Twitch About page, as well as in the description of my YouTube videos. So feel free to check those out if you're interested in any of those. Like, comment, subscribe. You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, it all helps out in the end. Um, if you're interested in, my current schedule, I have that down below on my Twitch About page. You know, all the games that I play, these coding streams that I do, as well as my series Finish What I Started, which is tomorrow on Mondays. So if you're interested in any of those, feel free to stop on in on any one of those particular days. Say hi in the chat if you want, or don't. It's perfectly fine if you just want to lurk. It all helps out in the end. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Chex, thank you for stopping on by there, bud. I appreciate you stopping in, talking with me, helping me out. It's always I'm always thankful for those of you that want to help me, grow as a programmer. I appreciate it, and hopefully, maybe you got some, you know, positive insights on what I was looking up to. Maybe I helped you out in some fashion as well. So, thank excuse me. Thank you very much for watching. So, take care, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you strangers next time.